What am I going to say? Oh, I know exactly what I'm going to say. No, fuck, I forgot.
Fuck you people, we've been feds the whole time. You're all under arrest.
Oh, don't worry, this will be cut up because this is too awkward. I'll do the oopsies. I pretended. I just pressed record. Okay, I think we're good. All right, Dr. Death, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I think I'm doing great, but not as great as our wonderful channel sponsor, Aho Patchworks. That's right, Aho Patchworks, 10% off for your whatever patches, merchandise, you name it. Great site. You've probably heard about it if you've been watching this long enough. Great place. You should go in there and check it out right now. I won't read it too long anymore, but, go to Aho Patchworks right now and, be sure to let him know who sent you, all right? And get a nice patch too for the holidays. There's probably a good Christmas gift there somewhere out there, and you should do it.
I heard on Twitter that if you use those patches and you put them on your plate carrier, you're twice as bulletproof.
I've heard something similar to that too, actually. And, I put it on my plate carrier as well, like a stat bonus. But that's only when you use coupon code /AGCast, believe it or not. That's actually the trick for it. It's like a spell or enchant. Let's get on to I guess the beta stuff. It is technically December, but we're doing the betas of November. And as we know, November is a time for family and holidays, so hopefully we'll see how many we got this month.
We have 3 because holidays keep everyone busy, and that's a good thing.
That's good.
There's 3 great ones also.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm assuming December. Well, December might be a little tricky too, because it's also a holiday month, but also people have, when people have school, a lot of, some people are, some devs are still in college too. You break, and when you break, you could kind of just, that's when you can start testing. So might be interesting to see what comes along from there. But I guess let's just start off with the first one. What do we got here first?
Okay, so the first one is the BiPoly, and that is by 8762E13. That is the name of the developer. He wanted to be extra cryptic. And what this is it's a remix of the Monopoly, which is my personal favorite AR-15 lower. And this thing thickens all the weak points that have been ever found in the Monopoly. I mean, the Monopoly is already a tank. This thing is... It's basically a PLA baseball bat. Like, you could whack someone in the face with this thing. And it is optimized for use on the Ender 3, so it is a 2-part print. And it has been tested legally with full auto, and it's low shelf, which, if people remember, the Monopoly was a high shelf lower, which wasn't as cool.
So, I do have a question there. Well, first up, that I love dev names because most of the time they just roll off the tongue. But for the BiPoly,
the BiPoly, yes,
BiPoly, oh yeah, rolls off the tongue. So is there also a one monolithic?
Not yet. We need some more testers, and once we get more testers, we can start doing things like a single piece build, because we need people with larger printers, and that's going to help us moving forward to unify this design. As of right now, the developer doesn't have a large enough printer to test this as a single piece print.
Yeah, because I mean, I was telling you a little bit about this, actually, funny enough, before the show of I was trying to build my own Monopoly recently because I had access to a larger scale printer. The only issue was the Z height. It was more, I think the Monopoly, the original one, was geared towards a CR10.
Yes, it is a quite tall.
And I think I was using, it was a Cheaty Max, and it had the X and Y dimensions just right, but the Z was just far too small.
Yes.
And you still have to print it in a 45-degree angle too. And arguably, that's, I think, I know you can print the Monopoly in 2 separate parts as well. And I guess this one, I had a friend that did it, and it was always he would always just have issues with it when he was done that way. Granted, he is not the most competent printer. I think he'd be the first one to tell you that too. I always wanted to try to just get it in the full, monolithic way, because I feel like that's just the coolest way of doing it too. If you're saying that
go ahead.
All I was going to say is if you're saying that this one is kind of more or less geared towards that like two-piece design, I think that's probably more helpful for most people, because I don't think many people do have CR10s.
No, most people don't have a printer of that size. And I have printed the Monopoly in both one and two-piece. The two-piece is fine. I mean, it's a completely fine. It's very strong. It's got steel reinforcement when you do that. Actually, the two-piece may be the stronger way to print it when you consider how much steel reinforcement is involved, because there's a very large bolt and also two cross pins that are involved, or two dowel pins, I should say, all of which are steel. That thing's going nowhere. But there is a sense of accomplishment when it comes to just printing a single, monolithic lower receiver. Like, you get that bit of a rush, which I did mine on a Ender 3, Ender 5 Plus.
Oh,
so
okay.
A very large printer.
I have only heard horror stories of the Ender 5 Plus, but
it's a bad time. It's a bad time, but I love it.
Yeah, it was like, it's not like a normal Ender 3. It's a little bit or Ender 5, but that's not the point of, I guess. Well, a little bit of it is, what printers can you print the monolithic on? Ender 5 Plus, CR10, anything with like that type of build volume. Really, the Z-axis I think is kind of the bigger one, like something around like 400 millimeters or.
I can be honest and tell you that the Monopoly is not a picky print when it comes to orientation for layer height. I have printed them sideways and they worked.
Yeah, I wish I could test it. I gave away my big printers because they weren't good, but they were big printers. They had they had big print volume. And I gave them.
That's a problem.
I gave them away, but even if I did still have them, I'm not sure if I wanted to trust a print on those. But that being said, like I said, the issues I had with not this one, but the two-piece Monopoly. Really, I would say it's more because my friend was special and he was not. He probably didn't do it right, and I'm like 90% sure. He kind of showed me, he's like, hey, look, I printed something cool. You want to try? I was like, oh yeah, that's a Monopoly. Yeah, let's go ahead and try it. And there was like hot glue at some part of it. It's like, okay, so this is probably not going to go well. And yeah, sure enough.
You're not supposed to use hot glue.
I have told them that several times, but that's not it's not the point. But yeah.
That's not epoxy.
It's not. When I think about the designs that are probably the coolest, or for AR lowers, there's really so much you can do. You got the Hoffman lower, which, it's got the hose clamp, which is kind of, that is sort of neat. Not as cool as the Firebolt. I'm never going to give Hoffman credit. But the Firebolt also, I think the Firebolt's my favorite. The U-bar is, of course, great, but my issue with the U-bar is it really does rely on those eye bolts. And it's great you can get those eye bolts, but try to source those on your own, and you will find it to be a lot harder. And
yeah, I've always felt that was a shortcoming.
I mean, it kind of is, but when there are plenty of people that sell them for it, and when you can get those, it's really good in that case. And what is the other? The Monopoly was always the other one I thought was probably the coolest, because I think it kind of does a better job than the original was at Anderson Hellfire, which at the time was, really cool. It was more like a cool proof of concept that actually just worked really well. Feel like maybe, goodness, I'm wondering, it's the year 2023 now. I wonder how many people have printed those now. But back
that was my first printed AR.
Many people's first printed ARs. Wasn't mine. Mine was the Firebolt. But many, a lot of people earlier on were using that. And that one was a printed buffer tower. It had actually like printed set screws, had a special printed tool and everything.
Yeah, which was really cool. Actually, I shouldn't say the Hellfire was my first. The Wildfire, the predecessor to that, was my first, which you couldn't take down without partially disassembling it, right, which was very interesting.
But I always kind of viewed the Monopoly being the better version of that, because this one, the Monopoly, it doesn't use a U-bar or U-bolt.
No, it
Doesn't use a
doesn't.
hose
No,
clamp.
it's all one piece.
It's all one piece, and it works. And
And it's strong as hell.
exactly, like, the Anderson Hellfire, what it did special, and I don't know if it was intentional, but it kind of clamped that buffer tower area, which worked well enough for the time. And because a lot of the original AR lower designs were kind of like 1-to-1 M4 data, which, great in aluminum, not good in polymer.
No, you'd snap that buffer tower to right off.
Yeah, you can probably find some old footage. You could probably find like earlier, like even Vice footage of Cody Wilson shooting like the original defense distributed AR lowers, which were exactly like 1-to-1 AR like technical data. And
which is a terrible idea.
Yeah, granted, like that was kind of early on too, which is I'll give it that of like it was a starting point maybe, but. That's kind of like, we've evolved a lot from there. And
yes,
I think really the Monopoly is kind of like probably one of the best printed AR lowers, just because it doesn't use so much extra equipment. The only downside, I think, to it was, you had to have this massive printer for it.
The idea of the Monopoly was really to simplify printing an AR-15. We wanted to take out as many parts as we had to and get as close to a fully DIY lower as possible. And, I'll be honest, the early monolithic lowers, things like from KE Arms, were a huge inspiration. And I actually spoke with one of the guys from KE Arms when we were making, or I should say from Cav Arms, it was before even KE, when we first were debuting the Monopoly. And it's just interesting to see how the AR-15 can be simplified and still be very strong. And the thing that I love about the Monopoly is, like I said, I've done tons of push-ups on them, and they do not break. They are a tough lower. And this one, the Bipoly, is even stronger.
And I think I'm kind of glad that someone is sort of working on, the two-piece one, just because... Let's just be real. Not many people have a big printer, and really kind of like the bigger printers are usually janky. They are not.
No, they're not good.
They're not fun. They are project printers almost always. There's always going to be some sort of sag. It's never going to be a great experience. I'll just say that. And that's more or less kind of the issue with just sort of the printing situation now. A lot, Bamboo has sort of taken over, but they are still a bit bigger than your typical Ender 3 stuff. So most people are kind of going towards that. And this is, I guess, a good way of kind of updating already a good design for more people. What I'm happy to see is that this is, it is updating already a fantastic design for kind of people that can't do the full monolithic.
Yeah.
But I do think, though, if you do have a CR10 or you do have the Ender 5 Max, or Ender 5, was it Max? Is it the Max?
The Plus. The Ender 5 Plus.
Have they even refreshed that yet?
I don't know. I still like mine. It's a pain in the ass, and it occasionally breaks for weeks at a time. But I do get smooth prints off of it when it works.
But what I was getting with that is, if you do have those printers, though, be sure to join the beta, so there can also be updates for the bigger monolithic one too. Because I think, personally, that's the one I find the coolest. But I do know for a fact the two-piece one is by far the most common one that people will probably do.
Yes. It's the most affordable way to get into it.
Really? So, to be honest, I would never recommend anyone a Plus printer, ever. Like, the Ender 5, I'm not going to get too far into it, but, like, the Ender 5 Plus, it doesn't use, like, the traditional Ender 5, like, So it uses a different firmware, sort of like you think it would be the same. No,
Yeah.
it's not. It's very different. And yeah, don't expect it to be like an Ender 5. It's not plug and play.
No,
It's
not at all.
janky. Um,
Uh, Leveling it is a chore and a half. Even though it's got automatic leveling, it will just occasionally lose level, and you can't get it back for like 2 days of solid fiddling and messing around. And there is no reason for that at all.
yeah, I never will recommend anyone a large printer, but if you do have one, though, I guess they are kind of Creality is sort of refreshing the CR10, so I have not tried.
Yeah, I have one of those too.
I have not tried those. Maybe, hopefully, they're better. If Sovald's made,
They're not.
It's not surprising, but sad to hear. I I would probably say, despite everything I've kind of already said, the two-piece probably one is the better way of doing it. But the bit of me, the child in me wants the cool one, the one I dream about, and that's the full monolithic one. Because again, you're right. The KE Arms is kind of what I always thought it looked like too, and well, that's a monolithic one. So yeah, of course I want my own monolithic one too. I think yeah, this is. I'm glad to see this, and I can only hope now someone has a larger scale printer, and also companies start making better larger scale printers, that we can fully get a full monolithic one. So again, if you have one of those, you should definitely join.
Please do. Please do. We really need testers for this. This is the next step in the AR-15 game, and it could be very revolutionary, but we need testers to make those steps.
I guess before we move on, because I think there's really not much else we could say, is it using the same hardware too, or like as the two-piece? Okay,
yeah.
So you said, we already said it's like one large bolt and two cross bolts, right?
Yeah. It's two steel dowels and one large bolt and one nut. And, all of the hardware is super easy to get. You can get it right at Home Depot or Harbor Freight and, rock and roll.
So yeah, again, if it's the same as the Monopoly, go ahead. You can download the Monopoly already, and you can see what that is. If you think you can do that, you should definitely join the beta, and go ahead and help. Especially though, if you got a CR10 though, or large scale printer, please join that one. But I guess I don't really know what else we could say to it. It's an AR lower. It's a cool one, but it's an AR lower. I guess let's go on to the next one.
Okay, so the next one that we have is actually the the Low Bar 9 by FireBird, and that is a remix. Yes, it's a remix of the U-Bar 9, which we all love. And so that's an AR9 lower using the U-Bar system, so it's got the U-bolt. And this one is low shelf. So it is a remix. It's not a totally original design, but it also adds the versatility of a low shelf lower, which everybody loves, with the strength of the original U-Bar 9. And I always felt like the AR9 was sort of the redheaded stepchild of 3D printing, because I think there is a lot of potential for that design. To do a bit of a throwback, I think the Monopoly would be awesome if someone adapted it to be a AR9 platform. But I think that this is a good thing because, first off, FireBird is a really good developer. I've known him for years, and they know what they're doing. And I do think that them jumping into the AR9 game and helping to revitalize that platform is a huge boost.
Yeah, I mean, I've known FireBird. In fact, I think he's been I feel like he's been subbed to the channel. Always, usually active for a while. So I'm glad to see him finally popping in one of these. But
yes,
the U-Bar, you are right though. Like, well, AR9s are just by their own like nature kind of janky. Like, they're not really not the best designed firearms. But
I still think they're cool, though.
I mean,
I really want one.
Oh, I agree with you there. No, they are cool, especially if for competition wise too. They are nice. There's just some issues if you've ever shot an AR-15 and you've never shot an AR-9, the AR-9 kicks harder.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
cart, it's obviously it's a rifle cartridge, so it would kick harder, but it is a direct blowback. It's just a direct
And
blowback
it is
PCC,
smacking. Yeah, it's smacking a 1 pound chunk of steel into your shoulder.
right?
That is true.
And AR bolts are not the heaviest, so you have to put in a lot of weight, and then you also have the buffer weight, which also is really heavy. And
Yep.
there and because it's a direct blowback, there's usually more of a higher likelihood for out of batteries. That's kind of that those do happen with AR9s.
They do. They do.
There are ways to get around it, of course. They have some buffer weights that kind of allow like less bolt bounce and stuff like that. But those are issues you would never have on an AR-15. Um, they also have, what is it? Well, you have things like CMMG, the Banshee. That's a good, like,
Yeah.
that's a really good step where now it's radially delayed, and that one shoots really nice. That's actually probably, if I'm gonna buy an AR9, that would be the one. Either that or get a really cheap one. But
I'm either going to buy one of the PSA classics or I'm going to just build one. And I haven't decided which I want to do. But I feel like I need a classic one.
I've just seen like people have, because AR9, like there's really no good standard for an AR9, so it's almost like
Not at all.
I always just see the best thing to do is just buy one. Like I saw someone try to build the Arrow one, but Arrow doesn't actually sell it fully, so it's like even they don't feel confident, sort of, to some extent.
Yeah, I figured out how I could build one for like half the price of a PSA one, but it was like the most janky way that you could ever build a gun where like I was like, okay, I can get this part to fit, but I'm gonna have to machine it a little bit, and oh, I can get, this barrel to work, but yeah, I'm gonna have to put it in my drill press, and and I'm gonna have to press fit this part on with a shop press. And I just think that maybe the U-Bar 9 is a better way to go, if you just buy yourself an upper
Pretty
and
much,
3D print your lower.
yeah, no. As much as I'm, kind of ragged on AR9s, like they are fun. Like another good thing is you're able to sort of, I guess, train with AR-15 controls for a lot cheaper, basically. And if you do any competition shooting, you can use AR9s, although they have to usually be 16 inches because competitions are different.
Lame.
Yeah, they don't want to, or you can SBR them, but are you really going to SBR printed lower? I'll leave it up to you. But it is these. I would say AR9s are fun. It's just I'm sort of in the issue of I already have a lot of 9mm PCCs, so I don't really.
As everyone should.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of designs are usually 9mm PCCs, but if you guys have never, if you want to build an AR9, yeah, this is always, it's definitely one of the guns I would probably go with printed lower, in all honesty, just because the lowers on AR9s, because this is kind of why I like the printed ones, because lowers for AR9s are also not standardized, and you can try to do those like goofy conversion kits, but that's what they are. They are goofy conversion kits that always come with trade-offs that really, it's like, do you really want to do that? Or do you want to buy a dedicated lower for an AR9 that can really only work with the AR9? For me, I just feel like, let's print one in that case. It's not like for me, it's never going to be a serious gun to begin with, so.
I think 3D printed guns can definitely be serious guns. I have a Monopoly lower that I do use as a serious gun.
No, I'm not just saying printed guns. I'm just saying the AR9 in general. I wouldn't consider the AR9 a serious gun.
Never forget, Paul Harrell said that you should match your carbine to your pistol. And in that case, the AR9 is perfect if it uses Glock mags, because then you only have to carry a single magazine and you can have your Glock 17 or 19 match up with your rifle.
Right. The only thing I think that would be cool for an AR9, so I don't think the U-Bar 9 does this, but it does look nice. It looks like some of the geometry, geometry changes, but same hardware, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
What I want to see though for an AR9 remix or lower, that would be kind of unique. Would be, what other kind of mags could you use? Is like someone.
Oh, you could open so much up.
could some, like, who wants to be the crazy mad lad that tries to get like CZ Scorpion mags in there? Like, I'm not sure if the geometry would work, but I don't know if anyone's actually tried that, because who would?
Well, the original AR9s by Colt used cloned Uzi mags. So, I mean, if they got that platform to work from Uzi mags to Glock mags, I don't see why CZ Scorpion's out of the question.
Right. Well, for me, that's kind of what I want to see, or maybe sort of like a dedicated AR9 mag. Like, so what is it? If you've ever seen, there's like those things called endo mags. Those are the AR-15 mags that use 9mm. Now, for the CMMG Banshee, they sell a special one for those mags. I think that one, has a special extractor, and those run really, really well. Those are really good, but you really need a very specific lower for it, and not many, are you really going to buy a lower for... some people will. It costs money, but it's not the greatest option. They do, Endomag sells conversion kits, though, where you can just use a normal AR-15 lower, but that comes with the horrible trade-off of the mag has the extractor on it, and if you take out the mag, that bullet's not going out. And causes a lot of people to ND, usually. Glock mags...
Yeah, I don't like that as much.
I like the idea of the AR-15 mag with 9mm, but also, to get it to actually work properly, you would really just need a special dedicated lower. And that's kind of where, things, I think, like the printed lowers kind of do a better job in that case, because really, I feel
like a 3D printed insert coupled with a Glock mag spring is probably a simpler way to work around this. Use an AR-15 mag body,
Yeah, but I feel like we're also kind of we're going a little too far off the rails.
We are.
This is a little bit of a shorter month, so we should probably keep it a little bit shorter. But those are fun ideas. If you got cool ideas too, and you want to be a fun developer, you can maybe take some of those little kernels there and make something out of it. But either way, I'm glad the low bar 9 is, if you want to build an AR9, or I think that's a good beta to join. U-bar 9's already been tested anyways, so shouldn't say, or barrier, safety level stuff like that, it's pretty high in that case. Really, I think it's more or less of just testing out everything, making sure it's all good. So that's a fun beta to join, especially if you're already in kind of the market already to build an AR9.
Absolutely.
I guess that's kind of really all we can add to that. It's the same hardware as an U-bar 9, so really not much more we can add to that. Just changes in the geometry. But
yes,
I guess let's just go on to the next one then.
Okay, so this is our next to last one, and this is a pretty exciting one, and that is that the OK Boomer has now entered into a public beta with revitalized rails, and it's a very exciting design. I don't know if many people have heard about it before. This has been worked on for a while, and it really pushes the limits of what 3D printing is capable of. And it is a 3D printable 1911 frame.
Oh, sorry, I was drinking a little bit of water. No, yeah, the OK...
You're fine.
The OK Boomer, I've been in that beta for a while, but it was a closed beta, so I feel like, now it's an open public beta. I feel like it's probably a good idea to mention it here in that case, since now you guys can join it.
Yeah, and it's by Freeman 1337. I have one here printed out and halfway assembled in front of me. I love the 1911 personally. I think it's a cool pistol. I'm sorry, you may hear my son in the background also.
Oh, it's okay. We've had Spooky on before. Everyone should be used to the goo goos and gagas on the background. But Freeman's a fantastic developer. Fun guy online. I bet a lot of you guys love him, but fantastic developer. One of the things I do remember that was, because I've been from the very beginning almost, I believe some of the differences are, well, first, it uses aluminum rails. I think you can get them from Aves.
Yes, you can.
You will need those. I'm not sure if he still has the printed rails on the files. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I need to double check that.
No, the geometry has changed. The
Oh,
geometry of the rails are very different than what the original closed beta was.
then yeah, so take that away. But what I do remember was also I think a bigger thing that probably some people wouldn't really expect, but it is the grip safety isn't functional. I think it's more or
Yeah.
it's like a spacer sort of a thing. Kind of you see
Yeah,
it.
they removed that.
You kind of see it a lot in like some of like staccatos. I don't think staccatos, but like some other higher end like competition 1911. Sometimes that they kind of just pin the grip safety to begin with. It's not necessary. Personally, I like the grip safety, but if from what I remember,
The only reason the grip safety was included with the 1911 was because cavalry officers were worried about accidentally shooting their horses in the head, and so the OK Boomer doesn't have that because it has the perfectly functional thumb safety. And whereas the grip safety is nice and it's cool, and yeah, you can make an argument that you can carry it cocked and locked as long as you have the grip safety. You know, you don't have to have the safety on.
that's why I like it.
I don't think that it's necessarily a vital part of the 1911 design, and it did allow for the frame being printed to be strengthened a lot.
No, yeah.
And with 45 ACP and like all the sort of wildcat stuff that the 1911's in, we needed all the strength we could get.
No, yeah, I was gonna say it's like I think the grip safety is cool and all, and I remember that was a conversation I had with Freeman too for like when the beta was still closed. Was but it is cool though, like yeah, no, the amount of structural like how much stronger it got by removing it, it really isn't necessary. So
No.
you honestly, I think it's a good trade off for a actually good functioning design.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this one has sort of been I want to say it really, because I know people have messaged me about, the OK Boomer. How is it going? Is there a 3D printed 1911 frame yet or something? And, it's kind of been it's taken a while, but here we are now, because for a while, all we had was a 3011.
Well, people have to remember too that the 1911's a very old design, and it was designed for solid steel. And even the aluminum framed 1911, certain models had issues.
Oh yeah.
So to get it working reliably with PLA plus is a huge engineering feat.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what makes this so exciting.
See, I think people might have forgotten this too, is that there were a lot of other people that attempted to do fully printed or 1911 printed 1911 frames, and like I can at least right now think about 3 or 4 people. One of them even sold rails at some point, and I have no idea what even happened to that design. I can no longer find it anymore. I'm not even sure if that site still exists. It has been a while. So like a lot of people, it's kind of just, I feel like a lot of people just assume, you can just make a printed frame for everything because they see the Glock frames, and that was almost always just kind of just work. 1911s aren't Glocks.
There's a lot of pins in a 1911, and there's a lot of controls and a lot of tiny little bits.
A lot of finning.
And the main issue with the 1911 is actually, I guess you'd call it the fire control group, but it's all the little tiny pins centered around the hammer. So you've got the hammer pin, you've got the disconnector, and you've got the the whole trigger group. And the safety, everything in there, they're all very close together. And in a printed frame, they tend to blow out.
Yeah.
You end up with a tiny little stress crack, and then it can just spider web to each of those pinholes. And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, that's what my experience was with it too. Yeah, I mean, again, that was really early on, so of course that's the whole beta process. But yeah,
exactly.
Seeing how much it's gotten better, even with the revisional changes, even in the closed beta, you've just got better. So
yeah, it's the fact that the 1911 is a tricky design because as reliable as it is also complicated. People think the 1911 being 2 world wars and all that is a simple design. for the time it was simple, compared to things like the Luger or the broom handle Mauser. But compared to a Glock, a 1911 is a relatively complicated design. And to make it work in polymer, I mean, no factory has even done that.
Yeah, I was gonna say is I don't even think anyone has made a polymer 1911 because it's a very complicated design. In fact, I think people really kind of underestimate sort of just reality when it comes to certain designs because we've done incredible things. I mean, a 3D printed set me. I mean, a fully printed upper for an AR-15. I mean, Ivan has his high power. So, like, I feel like people are really sort of underestimate how hard, these older designs are. Like, God forbid, maybe someone really wants to go ballsy. They could try to make a 3D printed Luger frame. That would be funny to see how that would work. But
there used to be one on FOSCAD in the old thing. I do not think it would hold together.
I could probably guess it didn't work if it was an older one. But Freeman has his beta. You guys can join it. I believe it's right now 45 ACP. Typical, or 1911 parts gets
40. Yeah.
45 ACP. Maybe I guess 38 Super is that their super carry?
Yes. Yeah, I love 38 Super. I love 38 Super.
I think that those should also. I think those are almost like interchangeable to some extent. Well, of course, not exactly, but fitment wise.
With 38 Super, you're going to want the ramped barrel version. The 38 Super is a hyped up 9mm, essentially. This design will work with anything 45 ACP and under. And so don't go putting like one of those crazy Wildcat 50 caliber 1911 frames in and thinking, oh wow, why isn't this working? Why did this blow up? Well,
the 357 ones.
But but anyway, no, exactly. But those are pretty rare. But 38 Super is a really interesting cartridge. It's almost comparable to 7.62 Tokarev, where it's very fast. And there's actually a quote from an old gangster saying that it was the best cartridge ever made because it will punch through a bulletproof vest like nothing. And I like that quote.
So it's a fantastic quote indeed. But I'm trying to think of really kind of anything. And I think 10mm would 10mm work with it too. A 10mm, because I know there are 10mm slides out there also. I think Freeman.
Let's find out.
I do remember Freeman trying it with some of the earlier ones. I'm not sure what really happened to that, but if you got the fun, if you got fun designs or anything out there, you could also try to join in. But from what I remember, my Sarco kits work fine. That's
just go on Gunbroker and buy some kits. I got a 1911 kit for like $120 the other day.
That's a little bit better than mine, but it was a while ago. Maybe next time send me a link. I might want to build another one. But 1911s are fun. Don't let anyone lie to you and say, "Oh, those are stupid guns. They're dumb." They're actually fun. And anyone that says that is just trying to be a contrarian hipster. And tell them to go back to Reddit.
Yes.
But I think really, there's really not much else I could add to it. It's kind of been beta for a while. I mean, I had Freeman on a while ago, so there's that show. I think that's still on my channel. You could probably find that. And you could hear what sort of, I guess, the differences there. Hopefully, I was supposed to be given rails, never got them. I guess I'll just have to buy them soon. But
I might be able to talk to some people. Let me see what I can do.
Well, we'll see that. But yeah, that will be. I'm looking forward to that one. I've been involved in that one for a while, so glad to see it's finally progressing more. And yeah, I guess that's really it. Let's go on to the last one.
All right, this is our last one here, and that is the FTN.3 by PLA Boy. And this is really cool. This blew up on Twitter, actually, because it is a full auto-rated printable suppressor. And the way that they're able to do that is they use a flash can set inside of a printed body, and then they have fiberglass around that as reinforcement. And that's all over-the-counter stuff. It's super cheap to do. And this thing cooked off 300 rounds of full auto like it was nothing before they cut it open just to see. And you can see the picture here. And it's been improved since then.
Yeah, I do know, for me, because a lot of people always complain about, oh, printed lowers, oh yeah, cool, parts get required thing. I always still stand by printed suppressors are some of the coolest ones out there, just because, they're an accessory, but they're a very, very useful one if you've ever shot with a suppressor before.
And yes, and they're too expensive for what they are.
Really, you really are right. I mean, there's a reason why there is a move for even like companies, like bigger companies, to make 3D printed suppressors, although different materials, so don't expect that to be the same. That their suppressor design really is kind of conducive for 3D printing, because there are just weird geometries you can kind of do to, increase performance, longevity, that you really couldn't do normally. And let's think about it sort of with the ability of, oh, here's something I just printed. Let me just slap it on my AR. Great, shot it.
Yeah.
And what's the worst? One of the nightmares that could happen if you have a suppressor is a baffle strike. Oh God, I just lost my, $800 CAD, all the tax stamp stuff. I haven't done one, so I don't really know how that would work. Do you get it sent to be repaired, or is it just kind of, what can you really do about that? Do you have to buy a new one, or is there new stamp type of stuff? I don't know how that stuff works. But with the 3D printed one, if you hit a baffle strike, it'd suck. It's like, oh, I guess my suppressor doesn't work. All right, time to go load some, filament. How much will it be? Okay, about like maybe 80 cents worth of filament. Great. And there you go.
You keep some extras on hand. You're not going to mess up the printed, or you're not going to mess up the steel flash can, and you're not going to mess up the, I'm sorry. Sorry, I had something caught in my throat. You're not going to mess up the flash can, and you're not going to mess up the fiberglass. So you can just print new baffles for this, and it's a flow-through design. I mean, it's amazing what you can accomplish with a 3D print.
And that, I think, is like, it really is, if only we were a free country still, you could just throw this on and just go to your local public range and not have to worry about it. Yeah, if you're a more freer man, then I always say follow your local laws here, as as we always do, because this is YouTube after all.
Please do. Please do.
It is, like, even those, like, think about those Wish.com, those old, I guess Temu now, those old, like, oil filters. Those were like $20-ish, and they had baffles in there. Like, that's kind of really,
they were solvent traps. They were important for cleaning.
You're right. I would love to film myself actually using as a solvent trap. But, that's kind of the technology we're looking at. That's really not expensive-ish. Kind of, it's one of those things where if you've ever shot with a suppressor, you kind of instantly realize, like, oh yeah, everyone should have a suppressor.
Yeah.
And
no, they should. It's a safety device.
It really is. It's a nice thing to have. And flow-through designs are kind of nice too, because you can kind of put them on an AR, and they usually shouldn't change too much. Like with a traditional baffle one, that's when you really got to start messing with things. Flow-through ones are a little bit kinder, a little bit more forgiving, for tuning-wise.
Just use a radial brake and some glasses, you baby.
Oh, it's the gas back in the face. Yeah, but
yeah, no, it's bad. It's bad.
It's still bad for you. You shouldn't breathe it. But these are the things that I think people would really be interested in too. Of honestly, if it's rated for AR and full auto, how many rounds did you say again exactly?
This went 300 rounds, and it has also been tested with 308, and it still works quite well.
Yeah, so if I'm guessing 300 round like cook down like just someone just full auto.
It was 300 or 150 rounds intermediate, and then just a 300 round mag dump, and then or I'm sorry, not a 300 round, 150 round mag dump, and then it wasn't dead. They just cut it open because we wanted to see what the erosion was, from actually cooking it. and you can watch the video of this thing smoking and still keeping quiet. And that is really neat, because if you can go full Sarah Connor on this thing, in Terminator 2, that's impressive for a printed DIY design.
Exactly. And again, you can always reprint another one. But
exactly.
I guess, probably since it's earlier beta stuff, I don't think you probably have the noise reduction stuff. Also, those are really hard to test and even get a good standard on, even for normal manufacturing. But
yeah,
what calibers are we right now looking at for beta?
So right now, we are looking at 556, 308, 300 blackout, and 7.62 by 39.
Okay.
And that is just what I have available to me. I'm guessing there are, intermediate calibers in between those that would also work. But I know that is what they have been tested with.
And of course, you can be the change in the world you want to see. The beta is still open, and you got a good idea, you could always help it and hop in and give some good ideas. But I personally think 3D printed suppressors are really cool, and I am looking forward to seeing where this one goes. This kind of it's nice seeing how the 3D printed suppressor technology is just kind of getting better and better. And,
oh yeah, it's amazing.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, what next we get. Maybe someone will make I think someone was already working on like a 3D printed like Nielsen device, the one that works for handguns and stuff. So
that is also entering beta, I do believe, if I can snag him.
But yeah, that's if that can, there is a lot of advancement for it, and I think this is kind of one of the nicer things out there. Again, it's really, really easy to do and really low stakes. Well,
yeah,
at least safety-wise.
It's great.
Legally-wise, different question. But that's really neither
here nor there. You can legally register these.
Of course.
You have to pay the transfer tax, but you're basically looking then at a $230 suppressor versus a $1,000 plus from another one. You can make 5 of these.
All I have to say is when you buy a solvent trap, you have a paper trail. When you download some files, a lot harder. But that's, I guess, that's probably a good place to end it. Not really sure what else we could.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no, I guess we'll do our nice little conclusions here, I guess, too, because it's right now December-ish.
Yes.
We have one more month for the year, and that's gonna be fun, I guess. It's been a whole year we've been doing this, right?
Oh, that's crazy. I cannot believe that.
I know, right? Yeah, it feels like, to be honest, yeah, it kind of, it doesn't feel like it's been a year, but yeah, no, we started in January, and yeah, here we are now, almost about to go full circle, I guess. We'll need to do the year in review thing, I guess. That will definitely be a live
which will be fun.
Maybe, should we do that before the year ends or like January-ish?
That will depend on your schedule and mine.
I think we'll
I am fair. Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah, do a poll.
Well, yeah, in the comments, leave something down below, but maybe make some Twitter polls too while we're at it. I think,
yes.
Yeah, shorter month. I guess we had a little bit more to talk to this time, shockingly enough, but hopefully everyone enjoys it. These are fun little shows for everyone. I guess really that's it for now. Yeah, thanks for showing by. Thanks you to everyone for watching too. And now, before we go, I want you to remember that holiday time is coming up soon. So use Aho Patchwork. Go to ahopatchworks.com and definitely use that coupon code /AGguest. Buy that special someone a nice patch. All right.
And make you invincible.
Exactly. And have a nice day and happy holiday.